Hello, beautiful souls. Lori Rising here, and I am popping on real quick before I drop the actual podcast episode that I recorded almost 2 weeks ago. I believe it was the 14th or 15th that I recorded it on, and it feels really important to still share this transmission. So I wanted to let you know that it's coming out later. So Pluto has moved into Aquarius. That's the most important part that I wanted to share with you because when I recorded the episode, Pluto was still in the anaretic degree of Capricorn and it was moving on out, baby. So we have already started to embody and live these massive shifts that have been offered through the Pluto and Capricorn transit. But everything that I share in this episode is really going to resonate with you, I know, on various levels and in various layers, because this is really dropping into a massive period from the April total solar eclipse until now. And it continues because this is an unfolding. There's never a destination here. It's just energy changing, moving, shifting, growing, evolving, all the things. So, to sum it up, I wanted to share something that I wrote on social media that feels really important for us to drop into the power of this. What's coming to me is reckoning. So, what I shared is you are reorganizing at a foundational level. This is not conscious and it is not meant to be. This is energetic, which is who you actually are. All of you is energy. The mind control has been shaken enough to let you know that it no longer works. Parentheses, never did. So there may be the remnants of discomfort in the new, in the initiation, even though you know it is and has always been the way. Your sacred waters, your bones, your cells are asking for your great remembrance. They are asking for your trust. It is in your allowance from witness, observation, and feeling in flow that the great change arrives. This is your ceremony, your most fantastic season of you yet. Allow it to reveal, allow it to be more exquisite, on purpose, and aligned than ever before. Your mind, your control, your fear only delay what has been building in your energy through all of these years of intention, perseverance, belief, and at times moment by moment declaration of what is possible that has not been before. Allow the becoming to be the healing that reverberates into light. Surrender not in giving up, surrender in power. Then listen and listen some more. The shifts come like a whisper in the wind, and you can't remember it being anything other than where you have already gone. Enjoy this first episode of season 6, my loves. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to the Ron Wild Hearts podcast. I'm your host and guide, Lori Rising, and welcome to today's episode called The Power in the Uncomfortable Pause. If you are a longtime listener of this podcast, first of all, heyo, thank you. And second of all, you know what just went down. It's pretty wild. And it's all a part of the new timeline that is accessible and available to mass consciousness. So I abruptly ended the podcast in season 5 about 3 months ago. I believe the last episode was called Get Resourced, Babe. I had no idea that that was going to be the end for then. But literally, every time I tried to come back, it was like there was a massive energetic block. And if you know me and you've worked with me, you know that I walk my talk. You know that everything that I share and teach is how I live. It's how I show up in the world. It's how I integrate what comes through in the energies. And then I transform them and share them with you. So this has been a massive pause in the energies. And for a while, it felt like a resistance until I softened in. There's this notion about leaning in, and that's what I did. But also, I think what we don't talk about a lot is leaning out. And it's like that lean out allows us to expand and transcend to get a little higher and see the greater timeline. Because so often we're just operating within this very small space where it's what we know in our reality right here and right now. And that, my friends, is a thing of the almost past. That is the old world. That's the old way of doing things. Now we approach from a multidimensional perspective and alchemy. So that means this is something that I've called for a long time. I coined the new earth soul flow. That means that it's becoming our default to actually hear the energies rather than the fear or the control and drop in to listen, to receive, to allow the new physical situation or physical shift in our life to come through from the energies rather than us forcing it from the fear or the constriction. So, this podcast has been a massive example. And it was like a big exclamation point on the end of a very uncomfortable pause all summer long. And this had to do with the eclipse season from April 8th until I've been so out of it because I've been really entrenched in just the chaos and the reflection and the pause that I'm barely even tapping into the astrology. But I believe it was August that we had the next set of eclipses. So that was really the start of where things started feeling more difficult and more overwhelming. And it just kept growing and growing. And that's where I had to continually be very intentional at stepping out and then finding the trust, stepping out. And that's where I'm saying leaning out and then finding the trust. And it's been pretty massive. It's been an incredible unfolding journey. And I've had to actually go quite internal with this. And so I haven't been coming out on social media and sharing the whole process with everybody. And that's divinely on purpose, I feel like. To be honest with you, if you start tapping into everyone who's out here in their soul business, you're going to feel the tidal wave of change, like how so many of these leaders have dramatically shifted their businesses. A lot of them have just paused or stopped their podcast in order to reorganize the foundation and the energy and then manifest, right? It's like the manifestation of the physical reality comes from there. And when we can really let ourselves kind of like come in to come out, it's like this breathing, right? Everything that we do in our lives is this living, breathing entity. And when you can really sit in the power of that, you're able to give it more space, right? So that pause is so wildly important in our lives. I mean, we have become such a society of reaction in everything, right? In every linear system that we see, which leads to our lives being a reactionary life. And that is the shift of timelines. That's the timeline that we are leaving. Now, in order to shift these timelines, we actually have to get to the root of those embodied patterns. Oftentimes, they're lineage and generational patterns that we just keep amplifying in our lifetime in this body, in this iteration. And so we've got to get to the root and clear it at the root. And when that happens, there is a deep level of trust that arrives for us that allows that quantum jump into the next timeline. And that, my friends, is where the expansion lives where we can hold the next timeline, where we can continue to say yes to it, body, mind, soul, spirit, energetically. This is where the layers of all that we are like a full yes to that growth, to the shift and the change. Now, there's so much that I could drop into here, but I really wanted to share a little bit with you why I just suddenly left the podcast on that episode, which, by the way, was episode 103. Things were getting so like intense for me energetically that I didn't even notice or take the time to celebrate that we are beyond 100 episodes. So for those of you, especially those of you who have been here from the start, like thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And for those of you that are new, welcome. I am excited to see and feel where this journey leads because we no longer operate from expectation. And this is in business. This is in money. This is in finance. This is in relationships. This is in our own self journey and self love. This is where we really are leading in our light, our frequency, our vibration, and our energy. These are the true resources. And I've been talking about this for years. We have been, especially in my membership community, which really began all of this. Well, the podcast began it all, and then came the membership community. But we've been doing the deep manifestation work, like the mastery work, trusting that it's happening, right? Without having the evidence around us. And that is what is now opening for so many of these babes in the membership community. It is incredible. It's wild. It's exciting. It's like, it's so confirming, right? And that's what we've got to keep moving toward is releasing the scarcity of time and really just showing up in it all, showing up in the pause, showing up in the acceleration, showing up in the courageous leaps, right? Like when we get to those next levels or those next octaves, you do find the trust to take the bigger action, even when it doesn't make sense to your mind yet. So I'm still in this pause. I'm going to quote pause. I'm still in this reorganization because it's so deep in my cells. It's so deep in my DNA that I don't even know what it's going to look like into my next spiral. But what I do know is that I'm really feeling this shift out of, I don't know if I want to say astrology. I love astrology. It's such a fantastic tool. And yet there's this, we're activating the galactic self in a way that astrology is like, it feels more like a friend rather than the guide, because now it's starting to feel a little constrictive when we keep looking at how these archetypes and these energies have looked in the past, because that's just not how we are functioning or operating anymore in every layer and every level of the being. And so it's interesting because I've been really paying attention to the stars at night. I get very deliberate about going out every night and stargazing as well as sky gazing constantly. And there feels like there's such a new clarity in the stars, in the cosmos, in the celestial realms. And that's such a beautiful comfort. And that really has guided my way. When I've pulled back from so many things in the way that they'd been working in my business, I pulled back from a lot of the containers that I have. Like I'm even pulling back from the Awaken Your Fire retreat, which PS, this Costa Rica experience this coming January will be the final iteration of the week-long immersion that it's been for the last 3 years. There are 3 spaces left, y'all. And I've been to all 3. I've witnessed the miracles. Like I've sat in the power of what happens when these women show up in full vulnerability, in full witness, in full support, in full love, like the core of love and like curiosity of what's possible in this kind of space, in this portal that gets activated by every woman who is called to this circle. So I dare to say it is not to be missed. Now, I don't know if Awaken Your Fire will come back at a different date in a different way, or if it will be a whole new iteration of something. I don't even know if I will be continuing to offer retreats. Like that's how massive this reorganization is. And really, it's the signature of Pluto finishing its final degree in Capricorn. We are at November 14th right now. November 19th, we move into Aquarius for the next 20 years. Now, it's been in Capricorn for the last 16 years. So, since 2008, something has been dramatically shifting in your life, even if it feels like it's been slow and a little arduous. Like, it's amazing how time is gone, but energies are sped up. And what I look at back then is right around the time when I made the massive decision to leave my home, to leave my husband, not my marriage yet, but leave my husband and go back to what I had known before the chaos that had ensued with my daughter being stillborn and the loss of my health and things just going into deep, deep, deep states of grief. And this was when I had finally made that decision that I wanted to live, that I wanted to find life again, because I was basically walking around like I was dying, right? And so I really look at this massive cycle of Pluto and Capricorn and all the shifts and changes and iterations of my business, and how everything that I moved through was a part of my healing, and it was a part of my growth in my business that's bringing me right here, right now into this soul business. That's actually landing me on the other side of this new pause that I've been in and new foundational restructuring as a full channel. Like I've been channeling, I've been psychic my whole life. I came in as a star seed, and yet this is the mastery. This is the growth. This is the student and teacher that we always are. And this is where I have been offered the discomfort in certain things in the business because it's time for them to go. With Pluto in this final degree of Capricorn, like this is how you show up in your public life, your public persona. This is like the work sign. And yeah, I mean, my midheaven's in Capricorn, so for me, it's extra, extra in the business realm. And that's where I didn't know if the podcast was going to come back. But I do know that I love the podcast and I love connecting with you, and I miss it. I miss it deeply. And yet I also follow the energies. I also trust where I'm going in the unknown, because it's going to catapult me rather than doubling down in what I've known up till then. Does that make sense? So here we are. And what I want to offer you as well is to really look at any area of your life that has this, I don't know, this dance right now between resistance and control, between challenge and control. So this is how we co-create with the universe, right? This is how we do get sent the messages and the guidance of change, growth, and evolution, which is the reason that we're here. And unfortunately, with the way that our culture had went, there was more constriction, more tightness, more stagnation, and more control. And that has led us to chronic states of stress, which has led us to chronic states of dis-ease. And this is where the levels of awakening that we've been moving through are really creating this space of recognition of that on a cellular level. And it's really exciting where we are now. Like when I do look at the astrology, I still use it as a guide, but like I said, it's more of a friendly guide rather than an, it's like I've got to look at expanding the views that I've had of all the archetypes and energies and actually start to function more from the highest frequency of them because so many of us have ascended into that space. And if we keep getting pulled back, especially if we keep our stream of consciousness on, everybody talking about the astrology and the history of what's happened at these times, it still hinders us. It's still kind of, it's like I get this, like, like we have a rubber band around us and it's kind of like keeping us in this pause that hopefully we'll slingshot out of. Yet at the same time, there can be a dissonance within the energy when we're like, ooh, what's this mean? Right? Like, for example, if you're listening to this real time, it's the 14th today. Tomorrow, I believe it's tomorrow. This is, I'm telling y'all, this is how much I have like pulled out, especially since I stopped doing astrology videos on YouTube. The Taurus full moon is coming. And I've tapped in a little bit to a couple of astrologers, and then I just kind of stopped because they're talking about how volatile this full moon is and, what's happened in the past with all of these different aspects and things. And I'm like, no, this new timeline is so, if you've been doing this work, and again, there's no A plus B equals C. That's what we're always looking for. We're like, just tell me how to do it. I'll show up and do the steps. I'll memorize the things, and then I'm going to get the A. Then I'm going to get the outcome, right? The degree, the certificate, whatever it is. This is how I work in mentorship. This is where we actually live the transformation. We live it from a place of trust. And that's when the manifestation energy comes in because the frequency is higher in that space. But when we keep constricting ourselves into like, okay, but how do I manifest? Tell me exactly how to do it. Then there's a delay. And so this is where in astrology as well, it's like we've got to get into more of the energetic message of it and the power of it or the empowerment of it rather than the expectation of it and like, ooh, here it comes. This is what happened in history because it's not going to look like it looked in history. Like we have made quantum jumps into the light acceleration in these bodies. And it's like, let yourself live that, let yourself be in that truth in new ways. So the power in the uncomfortable pause is really trusting that whatever you're feeling is guiding you to something. And when you can release that almost like ageism, right? But also the time scarcity and realize that time means nothing. I mean, I've heard so much lately about people reversing age, and it's true because people are waking up at such a level that the health that's coming through the body is it's just phenomenal. It's phenomenal to witness this massive shift in what we had normalized in life to what is normal for us now based on the body consciousness guidance and innate navigation that we have. Because you will see so many leaders that no longer partake in alcohol. Like they've released alcohol. They've released certain toxins. They've released, certain streams of consciousness and news channels and things like that. Like there are so many layers to this that when you find the empowerment of releasing these things and then you let your body guide you, It is like rippling through the collective. So, this is a great time to really drop in and notice if you've been internally fighting something over the last few months and continuing to show up in the way that you always had been, or just holding on and not letting go from the fear of it going away or of it changing because you're denying that body consciousness guidance system that's saying, hey, we're trying to do something here. We're trying to reorganize your energy and we'd like your help because when we come together in that place of alignment to create a foundation before you see it in your physical world, the physical world's going to be so much easier. This is the new Earth Soul Flow that we're now living in. It's just we're starting to live in it in a very expanded capacity. So it might be like a few months of allowing the foundation to grow or show up. And I do believe that once Pluto leaves Capricorn and moves into Aquarius, it's going to happen like a lot faster because it's an air energy. And just the age of Aquarius is all about innovation and doing it new and different and like really finding that unique place of freedom, of invention, of so allow yourself these moments and trust them. Trust them to go so much bigger than you ever thought was possible when you like say yes to them, when you show up and get super curious. And the thing is, keep dropping into your practice. Like, notice if it's uncomfortable and now you're just in a state of worry all day long and you're not finding that present moment space. Or if you're reverting back to old mindsets and habits and patterns, just kind of waiting this out, right? Or if you're numbing yourself out. This really is where your spiritual compass is going to like, woohoo, it's going to like turn the F on. So, anyway, that's a little drop in about the power of the uncomfortable pause and a little backstory about what's been happening for me. I mean, there's so much more I could drop into. There's so much that showed up over the past 6, 7, 8 months. But if any of you were in my free event last week, Slay the Struggle, this was a part of it because I really was tapping into the energy of Channel, the program that I was meant to launch at the end of that massive free event that was so incredible. And it was almost like I needed to pull it because nobody ever pulls it. You know what I mean? Like I needed to do it a new way based on the energy that I was feeling because it didn't feel like the group or the circle that I was working with was quite ready. Like we needed more time in this new timeline from trust in order to activate the massive transmission that Channel is. Like it is so big. It is so yum. It is so good. So that's why I rescheduled Channel to March 18th. It's going to be dropping as we move into the astrological new year, as we move into spring in the northern hemisphere. So it's going to be this time of external energy, of coming outward, of life, of growth. And we're really going to be at the tail end of Saturn in Pisces. So I was paying attention to that as well. And honestly, I hired an entire team to put Slay the Struggle and Channel together and to basically pull a program without bringing in the income from that program. It's unheard of in the business world. And yet I found deep empowerment in it and deep trust in it. And now I feel more aligned when I'm going to show up to really convey the strength and the readiness of making this quantum leap into the channeler that you are. Like that's really the codes of activation that are going to happen with this program. So, with that being said, I want to share with you a little bit what's going on in my business because I want you to have this support and this guidance as you're navigating these, like, it's almost like these waters. Like, you've got to be able to find the discernment into the timeline, or you can get swept up, right? Right after Slay the Struggle, which was divinely timed. Like there was a reason I offered that free event at that time. And it wasn't about the launch of channel. Clearly, it was about offering you tools, embodied tools and activations within yourself for the opportunity to practice. Because we'll never move to that next ascension level or that next phase of enlightenment as the vessel and being that we are without the challenge, the struggle, the duality in order to basically like activate us, in order to hop us into the next timeline. It's all about the response. And so, right after Slay the Struggle was the US election. And the way that I connected with the US election was so phenomenal. Like, honestly, it was like a dream come true, the clarity that I had in it. And it's the first time in my entire life that literally an election had no power over me. And I'm able to actually transcend just this little limited view that we're having right now and see and feel into the greater picture, not even just of our lifetime, but of the lifetimes of like the planet's evolution with us as the planet's epigenetics. Does that make sense? I hope that that makes sense. So, anywho, I have some offers for you because this is what I've been sitting with and like feeling into as I move forward in this new foundation, which P.S. I'm pretty sure when you see me come fully out in this new activation, in this new manifested reality, I am going to be just sharing my channel. Like I'm going to be channeling. And I've got a book in the works right now that's coming out. It's the companion to Channel, the 9-week program that's happening March 18th. So I heard a lot of you about the financial piece that you wanted in a different route or a different path. So right now, I'm leaving the doors to Channel open. I'm not going to leave them open continually, but through the Black Friday weekend, I'm leaving them open with an extended 5-month payment plan. With that, you will actually be able to access the bonuses immediately. So you'll already start to receive the support and guidance of what's going to be coming in Channel. And then by the time we get to March 18th, like, ooh, it is going off. It's going to be amazing. Y'all, we start with a cleanse. This is how I always begin my high proximity containers because this conduit and vessel is so important. The clarity within ourselves is so important. Our health and vibrancy and vitality is so important. Feel into if you do not feel vibrant, well, or healthy, what happens in your life? How can you show up? What's the energy that you have? Because that's the thing that's been happening is we've all normalized not feeling well to the degree that we've all been out of alignment. And then we just keep adding layers on in that route. And then we're looking for quick fixes to feel better because it's almost like we continually take ourselves to this point of no return. And then we've got to get out of it right away. And this is where living a life of intention, of creation, of response, of curiosity is a whole new world. That was for you, Lacey. So, channel's going to be open. Here's the other deal. This is the first time I'm ever doing this, and I am super excited to play with this and to play with you. I am doing, starting on Black Friday, 5 deals over 5 days, and I have some incredible drops for you. these 5 days are going to be off the hook. So make sure that you're on my email list. They will drop first on my email list. There's limited spaces in some of these deals. So you really want to be like ready to go. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you, especially if you've been hanging out for these last few months when I have been offline. I'd love to hear more from you. So please send me a message. Let me know how the podcast landed for you. If you love this, like, star rate the show on Apple Podcasts, subscribe on your favorite platform, share this episode with at least one person, tag me on social media so I can share you as well. And just know that where we're moving, like this new frontier that we're moving into in our ascension, those creators that you love to follow, that you love to hear from, that really are a beautiful support and guide from you, that are offering free downloads and transmissions to you, let them know, because if the energy is not there, you never know when it will just suddenly change. I mean, I know that if you're tuned in and tapped in, you're seeing this across the board. Like, it is phenomenal to see the results of coming back, showing up, doing this deep root work, and now living as the light and from the light in new ways in the matrix. And that's becoming the new narrative, the new dominant energy for so many others to tap into, which is why, again, channel got delayed, because I feel so much more pull coming in March for people really understanding the importance of this work, actually above most of the other investments. Because when you channel your life, you are so clear. You no longer run energy on hesitation or rationalization or control. And it feels good. So again, if you are following anyone and you love what they're doing, let them know. Really let them know, because it might be the difference between them continuing to offer it and them just quickly pulling it, shifting and moving onto a new trajectory, a new path, a new timeline. Let me know if you are stoked for the podcast to come back for season 6, episode 104, The Power in Your Uncomfortable Pause. I love you so much. And until next time, don't forget to keep looking up.